understand the various types of adaptation. In terms of the type, they are classified as morphological, physiological, and behavioral. I think this is something which perhaps you may not have thought about it. So some adaptations are morphological. Morphological means structure itself is structure or the build of that organism. Okay. For example, if I look at morphological, no, I may say things like, how about this pine tree? Can I say this is an example of morphological? Taiga biome. Yeah, coniferous. In that coniferous, you had pine tree. Why is it morphological? Because many of you rightly answered, because of the cone shape, it allows the eyes to slit through it. So that's an example of morphological. How about beak of a bird? If you compare the beak of hummingbird with, let's say, beak of an eagle, yeah, what does a hummingbird predominantly eat, or what is its major diet? Nectar. Excellent. Predominantly it eats nectar. So Prachi, if it is going to drink nectar, how do you think its beak would be? As in, if you understood my question, what kind of beak should it have, or what would be the characteristic of the beak? Excellent. Straw, very thin, needle-like. So it will be long and pointed. You must see the videos of hummingbird actually drinking nectar from the flower. So imagine if this is the flower, it goes and it doesn't sit on the flower, by the way. And as you may be aware, hummingbird is one bird which goes, it flaps backwards. So while it is flapping its wing, its beak goes, as Prachi rightly says, like a syringe. It goes, takes the nectar while in still motion, and it moves to the next one. Okay. If it is eagle, now eagle or any birds of prey, how will their beaks be? Beaks and claws, they'll be very, very, very strong, because it has to tear the flesh. So that's but what is common in all of them? It is morphological. The structure itself is helping it to survive the condition in which it is meant to. The structure helps the species, be it plant or animal, to survive in the harsh environment that the organism finds itself in. That's an example of morphological adaptation. Let's come to physiological adaptation. What is the other name for physiology? How do you better know as physiology? Anatomy. Few have ever seen in Nobel Prize. Though we say Nobel Prize for medicine, but in the actual citation, I've seen it is being written as Nobel Prize for Physiology and Medicine. So physiology, as Prachi said, is the anatomy, the inside of the body, Now, can you tell me an example of anything on the inside of a body which helps the organism to, let's say, survive better, be it plant or animal species, in a harsh weather? Excellent. Blubber, the fat layer for the animals in the cold biome. Yeah, layer of fat. We remember we talked about whale having a blubber, seals, walrus, penguin, all the ones which are there in the cold biome. How about, suppose I say there is something called cuticle. Yeah, exactly. There's something called, as coming to cuticle and stomata. Good, you said, sir. So there's something called stomata. When we talked about hydrological cycle in the last class, we said that stomata is the opening through which transpiration happens. Are you able to recollect it? Yeah, stomata. So in desert plants, the stomata is deep within, it's not on the surface. So stomata can be the opening, how much it is opened and how long it is opened in a day can be considered as a physiological adaptation, can be considered as a physiological adaptation. Okay, now I'll give you a third example. Have you heard of this term called mountain sickness or altitude sickness? Mountain sickness, altitude sickness. What is it and what are the symptoms like? Okay, and what are the symptoms? Nausea. Excellent. So both of you are right. So mountain sickness is the lack of oxygen which causes dizziness and nausea. Which means when I go up in the mountain, how many of you have, I hope none of you have mountain sickness, because Labasana is at a good height, by the way. So, and they make you do trekking also. That happens during the peak winter. Okay. So figure out whether you have mountain sickness so that you can enjoy the trek when they ask you to do in Labasna. Now, when you go up in higher altitude, one thing that comes down for sure is the air density. Am I right? It's the air density. When the air density comes down, obviously air is what, 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, which means the oxygen density is also coming. So when I inhale, for the same volume of air that I am inhaling, less amount of oxygen goes in my body. So far so clear, because the density has come, but the volume is the same. So I inhale, let's say 2 liters, I inhale, deep breath, but only that many less amount of oxygen is present. Now what happens? Now the moment my oxygen is less, what is going to happen? That oxygen, less oxygen is going to travel through the RBC to all parts of the body, including the brain. Here is where the problem comes. Now, brain is the most sensitive. This we discussed when we talked about carbon monoxide pollution. Brain is the most sensitive when it comes to deprivation of oxygen. It means millions or hundreds of millions of cells can die just like this if there is a cut in the oxygen supply. Okay. So now the moment the brain is not getting the sufficient amount of oxygen, these symptoms will come: dizziness and nausea. Okay. Now, therefore, what is the solution? What is this? Yeah, oxygen cylinder. Yes, you can do that. What is the solution if you have to kind of permanently stay in a mountain? What should change in your body? Assume that something can change. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to get at. You need more RBCs. More RBCs means what? The oxygen is less, but the efficiency with which the oxygen in the air is getting converted and transported to various parts of the body is better because your RBC is more. That is a characteristic feature of people who stay in the mountains. Okay, so if you take a Sherpa, you understand Sherpa, yeah, Gorkha or Sherpa, both. If you take people who are traditionally in the mountain, it is found across the world, it is found that their RBC count is better than the people who stay on the ground. Now, that is once again an example of physiological adaptation. So, you have RBC. Sheta gave the example of stomata. Yeah. So, these two can be considered as examples of stomata. Now, this is actually peak winter. Now, imagine you are fully dressed. I mean, you have a hoodie, you have a full sleeve sweater, and you have a trouser which covers you till the ankle. But if your feet is left uncovered, how is it going to be? It is still going to be miserable. Do you agree? It's still going to be miserable. So conversely, if you are someone who is going to stay in the colder weather for a longer time, adaptation wise, what do you think? Should they have a long feet or a short feet? Or you say, no, that does not impact. Yeah. So one gentleman by the name Allen had studied this phenomena. Yeah, short feet, correct. Had studied this phenomena, and he was able to correlate it for several mammals in colder weather. Sorry, not weather, colder climate. And he found that they have shorter ear and shorter limbs, a phenomena called as Allen's rule. So Allen's rule is nothing but mammals in colder climate will have shorter ears and limbs, because lesser the surface area, less is your exposure to the cold, and therefore more you can survive. Okay, so blubber we have discussed. Teeth of carnivore and herbivore we can understand. If you look at grazing animal like a cow, so its molars are going to be very strong because it is going to grind, keep on grinding. But if you see a herbivore, its canine is going to be very strong. So I think more or less we've looked at. So look for more adaptations. Yeah, if you look at um, both in tundra or taiga or any kind of extreme weather, you can easily find, for example, thorns. Yeah, thorns, I think maybe it's partly morphological, partly physiological. I don't know where it would come. Let's put in morphological itself because it's a structure. Thorns is once again an adaptation and invention of the desert plants, so that they have very limited surface area. So the leaf itself is modified as a thorn, therefore very little surface area, therefore very little transpiration. Therefore, you are able to save water. Okay. So have you heard of these guys called as Yeah, which part of the world do you find them? Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's the African tribe. They are found in a desert actually. It's the Kalahari Desert. The Bushman tribe are traditionally in Kalahari Desert. So whenever you get time, when you are very serious and you don't know what's happening in life, watch this movie called. Has anyone seen this movie by any chance? It's a beautiful movie. I mean, you will be touched by what they show in the movie. If you have not, I think you should seriously watch it. There is both part one and part two, and you should try this. Yeah, you should definitely watch this. Oh, you've seen. Okay. So what they show in the movie, the tribe is the Bushman tribe. Okay. So they are very what should I say? Forgiving means the grapevine or the story is before killing an animal, the Bushman tribesman he ties the hands and legs of the deer and he whispers into the ear that please apologize me, that I have to kill you, but I have to feed my family, and then every time they kill an animal they say this and then they kill it. Yeah, and sharing is something which comes very naturally to them, and you must have seen this so many WhatsApp forward and the word that comes from this. You heard of this one too? Yeah. So apparently a sociologist did an experiment. He gave marshmallows to the kids in the cities and said whoever goes first, he gets 10 marshmallows or something. And so obviously in the cities, the kids try to compete with each other and the fastest kid gets the maximum marshmallow and the other kids are left crying or upset. But in Ubuntu or this tribe, I'm not sure whether it is Bushman, but it is one of those African tribes that they say in this study. So in Ubuntu, what they do is these kids. So they are like 12 kids, and there are something like six marshmallows. Marshmallows as it is very small. Okay, six marshmallows. So what they do, this guy says, okay, the first six will get it. So now run. So what they do is really amazes him. They hold each other's hand. Can you imagine? Yeah, they hold each other's hand and they all run together saying this word Ubuntu. Okay, and they come and they share the six marshmallows as one two people sharing one marshmallow. So the reason why I say this is if you look at it from a anthropological reason or an anthropological angle, uh, the harsh weather sometimes brings the best in the human beings. Okay, as in the case of Bushman tribe, sometimes it can also bring worse in human beings. People who are traditionally used to being in cold, desolate, isolated places, they are considered as people who have a stony heart, so to say. Yeah, they are generally a little more emotionless. Yeah. Anyway, so I think we have digressed a little bit. Let's get back.